We back to it.
Hello everyone, I recently found a bunch of footage of me building my first computer. I was just kind of sitting on my phone somewhere, but I thought I'd go ahead and just try to make something out of it. This is by no means meant to be some sort of like super in-depth tutorial on how to build a computer. I highly recommend you go watch Linus Tech Tips if that's what you're trying to do. But this is just kind of me way back when, kind of recording my experience of like figuring things out and putting it all together. So yeah, if you liked the video, feel free to leave a like. If you didn't like it, feel free to leave a dislike. If you want to subscribe, that'd be pretty cool. It doesn't cost you anything. So yeah, enjoy. Alright, so here are some of my components. I'm going to open them up and make sure I got what I ordered. Here is the RAM that I ordered. Here's the hard drive that I ordered. Here's my power supply, the case I ordered in its box, and here's my case without all the packaging. And here's everything. Graphics card made it. Here is my CPU included with a cooler, my motherboard, a couple of fans that I bought for extra cooling. So here's my power supply. It's a little bit intimidating because there's a shit ton of cords everywhere. But yeah, one of the first things you need to do is test it. And the way that you test it is by plugging the power supply in and connecting this little doodad here to one of the connections over there. So I'm going to test it real quick and we're going to make sure that it works. And how do you know it's working? You know it's working when the fan is spinning. And you can feel it a little bit. So yeah, this one was also kind of confusing. Trying to figure out how to get this into the case because some of the stickers are like reversed and upside down. It's not very intuitive, but I'll show you that in a second. What we're supposed to do first is put the motherboard inside of the case. So I'm gonna see how to do that. Changed my mind. I've seen that a lot of people like to just set the motherboard down on top of the box and then add the CPU and the heatsink and stuff, and then you put it into the case. And to me that seems a lot more efficient and less dangerous. So that's what I'm going to do. Alright, so here's me putting the CPU in. When you're doing that, you're going to see a little triangle on the CPU. You're also going to see a triangle on the bed here. It's barely even noticeable. So yeah, hopefully in real life it'll be a lot easier to see. If you can't see it, then I don't know what to tell you. You need to get some better eyesight. So here we go. Put it in. Should just kind of, oh, there we go. So it dropped in, and then we're gonna put the arm down, and there we go. Our CPU is in. Voila. Okay, so now I'm gonna put my cooler in. My CPU came with the cooler, and it already has this thermal paste stuff pre-applied. So not every cooler is going to be the same. Not every CPU is going to be the same, and there's certainly, I think, not all of them are going to come with the paste already there. So if you have a different setup, yeah, you're going to have to figure that one out. So I assume there's already screws here, you can see, and I assume that, you know, it lines up perfectly on top of the, you know, the CPU. So yeah, I'm gonna just put that on there. I'm not even gonna show it because it seems I have skipped a step or two. Alright, it was pretty simple. All I had to do was remove these little plastic bracket things as well as the screws, and you just line up the holes on the motherboard with the screws. Yeah, and you just tighten it down. Okay, so my cooler is in and I've plugged it in already. How did I know where to plug it in? It should be labeled on your motherboard. It's not the easiest thing to see, but it's there. So yeah, so now we're gonna put my RAM in. Make sure that your cooler isn't too fat for your RAM, because if it is, you might have to swap one of those things out. Typically RAM is either color coded or numbered in a manner. You can see the numbers as well here. It tells you. So you typically with RAM, you do one and then the other. You don't do 1 and 2, you do 1 spot 2 or whatever. You know what I mean. So here we go. Okay, so my RAM was a bit of a tight fit, but it fits just under my cooler. So yeah, fortunately everything fits, and it looks pretty nice actually. I'm pretty proud of myself. So next we're gonna be, I guess, putting this inside of my case. Yeah. My Okay, now that my motherboard is voice crack. Okay, now that my motherboard is assembled, we're gonna put in the I/O shield first, which is just the plate that covers all the gaping holes in the back of your computer where a lot of your external connections are. So we're just gonna pop that in and make sure it's aligned properly in the right like orientation. Should be. Oh, there we go. Okay, so IO is in. I'm sorry if you didn't see any of that, but there we go. Okay, so now that I have my IO shield inside, I'm going to put the motherboard and everything that's on there inside of the case. Might be a little bit difficult, but we're going to see. I do know that I'm holding it by the cooler, which a lot of people say not to do, but I'm doing mine that way anyway because my build is not that heavy and it's pretty sturdy. So if something breaks, it's my fault. And then you just want to sure everything lines up on with the IO shield there. Hopefully. Yeah, I'm gonna do this off camera and then because you already know what I'm trying to do. Hello everyone, future me here. Just wanted to come back in and remind everyone that I completely forgot to show you the setting up of either the hard drive or the SSD, as well as my GPU. If you don't know what the GPU is, the GPU is responsible for your graphics. Most computers, or I guess nowadays most people are using like actual like full scale GPUs like this one. This is a lower tier one. It's actually like way below, I think, everything else that I bought pretty much, but it works just fine. It's a 1050 Ti, but I forgot to mention that you will need to, in some cases, you might have to bring one of the power supply cables into your graphics card. But luckily mine is a lower powered one, so it just kind of, you can see right there, that horizontal kind of jack right there, that's how it plugs in and it lines up with the another IO kind of plate here on the back. So since mine is lower powered, I didn't need to bring another cord running into it. Those cords on the bottom are just connecting to the actual motherboard itself. But yeah, now I'll flip this around and show you what's going on in the back. Alright everyone, so here's the back of my PC. It's a little bit messy, but right here I have what is an SSD. It's basically a solid state drive. This is one form of memory that you can use. As you can see, it's plugged into a SATA cable that connects to my motherboard basically, or in some cases it can connect to your hard drive. I have both. I have a hard drive and a solid state drive. But yeah, they kind of sometimes, depending on the setup you have, obviously, look up a video on how to do that correctly, but you kind of connect them together and then they run to the front onto the motherboard in most cases. There are also really tiny solid state drives that are kind of flush with the motherboard that you can buy, but that's not what I have. But yeah, a lot of times what you'll do is you'll have a solid state drive and you'll have that running your actual like operating system, like Windows 10 or whatever it is that you've purchased or pirated. So yeah, and the reason you'll do that is because your solid state drive is much faster. There's no mechanical parts or anything, and so your system's just gonna run it a little bit smoother than it would on a hard drive. But yeah, so your hard drive it's kind of tucked in there. but that's basically where kind of you're more likely to store your media, like your pictures, all your nudes, all your Scooby-Doo porn or whatever the fuck it is. That's where your stuff is gonna go, is in your hard drive, right? So yeah. Also, on a side note, this little plate here, I think I had actually two of these. Normally, you would, I guess, put your solid state drive into this little slot right here. But due to how stiff my cords were for my power supply unit, I wasn't able to do that. Cable management is always kind of a tricky thing, it seems, with computers, especially when you're building them. So yeah, overall, it's sometimes stuff like this is convenient. It's nice to see and it's nice to have, but depending on what parts you have, you might not even be able to use it properly. So yeah, that sucks. Failed to show was the actual like fans, like the additional fans that I have inside. A lot of computer cases will actually come with their own fans. These are not the fans that came with the thing. I bought these gray Noctuas here because I really like gray. And I have these white LED Corsair fans, I believe. I bought all this stuff because I thought it would look, well, I just thought it would look really neat. Except for these gray. Obviously, my thing isn't like entirely color coordinated. In the future, I'd like to build a PC that looks a lot cleaner and neater. I also have a little Halo MA5B or MA5C patch that I just kind of put on the inside. You could put silly shit on the inside of your stuff. I've seen people put action figures and like pop figurines. I fucking hate pop figurines. But, some people like that stuff. But generally, the fans and stuff like that, these are really simple. A lot of times, I guess I'll just show, let's just a quick example. A lot of PCs have a faceplate that can just kind of pop off. This isn't always the case though, but yeah, if you turn around, you'll see a screw here in this little mesh piece, and basically you take off the screw and there's like a little plate inside that the fans are actually screwed onto, and basically you could pop out the plate, set it down, and then take out your fans. And yeah, but obviously the fans are probably the easiest part. It's mostly just a screw and a plate that sits inside of the case, and that goes for the top and the bottom, or the side rather, or depending on what kind of PC case you have. Okay, now I'm putting in my power supply. Like I said before, it was a little confusing because some of the stickers weren't really like in the exact same orientation around it, but how I figured it out, like you just basically line up the holes, like these holes here on the case, line them up with the threaded holes on your power supply. So here on the back, this is typically where they will be, where the cord is, and so yeah. Okay, here we have it. I've already screwed in my power supply, and then now I believe I have these cords that come from my case, and I believe I need to put them through to the front and then plug them into my motherboard. So yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much most of it. Overall, I spent like $1,100-ish, plus or minus the monitor and the keyboard that I purchased. But yeah, it was kind of a mix of fun and frustrating. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with my setup. Obviously, not everything was perfect. It wasn't entirely color coordinated, and my PC case is actually a size bigger than my actual motherboard. Technically, it's not the wrong case or the wrong motherboard or anything like that. Everything still works perfectly, but it's just that I could have bought a smaller case for mine. But one thing I did not show is obviously the plugging in of all the cables and everything. There's a lot to it. But yeah, and then I also did not show myself booting up the computer with the actual operating software. Typically, well, it kind of depends on who you are and what you already have. But since I was building a PC from scratch and from the ground up, basically what I did is I purchased a USB that had the operating system like Windows 10 on it. And you just kind of plug that into your PC and then boot your PC up into the BIOS section. And you just kind of go from there. But yeah, it's kind of proof that, if you work hard and, you try to save your money, at least in most cases, you can kind of build yourself something. You can build a PC that's going to keep on giving, because I really wanted to do like 3D and like animation and video editing and stuff like that. And obviously I needed a new computer. So I saved all my money and I spent it on a computer. Although I must admit that $1,400 stimulus check was definitely very nice and pretty much covered most of it. But yeah, it kind of gave me a head start. But most everything else I pretty much paid for. And yeah, but it was actually an incredibly like rewarding experience. Just knowing that I could put something together and have it work and have myself a PC that's going to keep on giving, and I'll be able to upgrade it later on. I would actually like to build a brand new one later on, like one that's much nicer and cleaner and more coordinated. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with the one that I have. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like. If you didn't like it, you know what to do. And if you want to subscribe, that'd be pretty cool. It doesn't cost you anything. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time.